ACCA, the world's most forward-thinking professional accountancy body.
Welcome everyone to this episode of Careerwise, where this time we're looking at the subject of self-care while job hunting, which is a topic close to my heart because when I was looking for work, it could be quite stressful and I didn't really consider the stress or my mental health at the time, or that there might be advice out there around this. This week I'm joined by Edel, who's had a really interesting career because she's a chartered accountant. She's also moved into the coaching area and she's got a really fascinating background. I think she'll do a better job of explaining it as she introduces herself. So over to you, Edel.
Oh, thank you so much, Neil. So my business, Neil, is Edel Coaching and Consulting. So just as you said there, I am a chartered accountant and I'm also a chartered tax advisor. I spent much of my career in the world of professional education. So I actually spent much of my career actually lecturing ACCA, which is great. But I also lectured in other accountancy bodies in Ireland also. And during that time, I also held examiner positions, not with ACCA now, but I held examiner positions also. So I wrote the professional exam papers. And then I suppose roll on to 2017, Neil. I got a role within EY here in Ireland. And I was the tax talent development learning leader. And it was in EY I actually trained to become a coach. And before that, I never knew anything really about it. So I got the coaching bug and roll on to 2022 where I decided, you know what, I'm going to set up my own business. I knew I loved working with accountants and tax advisors. I knew I loved working in the space of education. I also ended up getting a coaching qualification in personal leadership, but I got qualifications in mental health and wellbeing coaching and corporate wellbeing coaching. So I wanted to see how I could kind of bring all of those skills together and support accountants and tax advisors. And that is essentially what my business is now. So I am a coach for accountants, tax advisors and professionals. And I also work in the space of early stage career coaching, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting area because I haven't seen many coaches who work in that area. Yeah, you're perfect for this topic, I think, and for lots of topics in the future, possibly. To bring it round to job hunting, it can be a full-time job in itself, and it's a job you want to do well. So therefore, that automatically comes with its stresses, comes with its pressures. Yeah. The pressures can stem from economic needs. You need a job. They can also come from the fact that you're constantly judging yourself and asking yourself to be judged by people. So criticising yourself, self-doubt can lead into this. You might receive silence from employers or rejections, and this can be difficult to contend with. This can lead to self-doubt, a general anxiety, but it's not often talked about. It's just part of the process. The first question I have is it something that has not necessarily put under the carpet, but just not even thought about?
I think you've hit on something there, Neil, and it's definitely something that is not hugely talked about. I think when people are going looking for the jobs, it just feels like it's part of the course. You know, this is what I have to do. You may still be working. You actually may still be doing exams. And then you'll obviously have family commitments and all the other commitments that you have. And then you're putting this in on top of it. So as you were mentioning, there is a roller coaster of emotions when it comes to job hunting. You've obviously got the excitement, of new opportunities, but you've got the stress of application forms, the inevitable rejection. There could even be grief for your past role if you were made redundant. You've got frustration, disappointment. But I think this is such a core and key topic because our well-being can absolutely be impacted by this. Because not only are you trying to perhaps still hold down a job, you're looking for another one, which can be a full-time job in itself. So there's lots of balls being juggled in the air here.
Yeah, just flashbacks, memories to doing this a lot myself. And so what might be the signs to look out for?
It's a really good question. Even for me, it's often after the fact. I think, wow, I was actually really stressed there and I didn't know that I was stressed. Yeah. Actually, this is very likely that this can happen. So there's loads of things, I suppose, that we need to keep an eye out for. The physical signs. How am I feeling? Headaches, muscle tension, pains in my stomach. And then you've got the emotional side, like, irritability, anger, you're feeling a little bit withdrawn. And then, of course, behaviourally, for me, I know when I'm stressed because I'll start biting my nails. But again, it could be sleep. You might be oversleeping, undersleeping, overeating, undereating. You might be withdrawing. So again, we're all different. And I suppose when I'm stressed, there'll be, as I said, various physical, emotional, and behavioural symptoms that I know I need to look out for. But then, Neil, it'll be different for you. So I suppose we all know ourselves, and it's just even to take that moment to check in with ourselves and like, God, how am I actually feeling here today? I'm feeling a little bit off kilter. Is it got to do with this job hunt?
I'm an nail biter. I don't think it's ever going to change. But I also, sleep was a big problem for me. And I never realised it until after. When you look back and go, wow, that was a funny period. And sleep was a problem. But very difficult to see when you're in it. You just do not go into the process expecting to that be something you need to think about.
Sure.
If you're going to start looking for a job, if you're looking for a job, know that it's probably going to be a little bit tough. Have a little self-reflection, have a look how you're feeling, have a little check-in with yourself. So once you've diagnosed, perhaps, what are the coping mechanisms that you might be able to deploy?
Yeah, there's lots of ones. And I think the first one is acknowledging the emotions once you've checked in with yourself. Because sometimes we can suppress them, okay? And what we resist, Neil, persists. So if I try and resist those emotions of, anxiety, frustration, disappointment, and I suppose we're focusing on the overly kind of negative ones here. Of course, there can be excitement as well. But, if we were to focus on the ones that aren't so nice, acknowledge them. There's a lovely analogy. If you imagine a beach ball and it's bobbing on the ocean, okay? And if you're in the ocean with the beach ball and you try and push that beach ball down, you'll get it under the water for a while. But then soon another beach ball might arise and you're using your other hand and you're trying to push that down. And all of a sudden you see a third beach ball. What's going to happen to one of the beach balls? It's going to come flying up into the air.
Yeah.
So therefore, rather than ignoring the emotions, say, I'll deal with that later, just sit down with it and acknowledge it. You know what? I'm feeling really frustrated at the moment. And that's okay. So again, what we resist will persist. So that's the first thing I would say. Acknowledge the emotions, and it's okay to feel these emotions. It absolutely is. The other strategies and tactics that we could look at is set realistic expectations for yourself. We're all going to be on different trajectories when it comes to the job hunt. You might be just thinking about moving jobs. You're under no pressure to move jobs. You're just not hugely happy. But you think, you know what, I can take my time at this. Whereas you might have another person that may have lost their job or they may have come out of contract. They're under a little bit more pressure. So I think the key thing here is to set yourself realistic expectations. How long is this going to take? Dig into that and have a think about it. And this whole process can be quite overwhelming. So a really important tactic is to break everything down. So when you look at this whole exercise that's in front of you in terms of trying to find a job, take everything in small, manageable chunks. Set yourself realistic targets. You know what? Today I'm going to update my CV. I'm going to get someone to have a look at it. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to, update my LinkedIn profile. And then the other point that is really important, and again, if you're under pressure to get a job, this is where sometimes, things can fall down, is really dig into, what are my skills? What are my values? What are my strengths? What am I really looking for in a job here? And I really reiterate that to people that are feeling a little bit panicky about trying to find the job, because sometimes you'll end up in another job that you're like, oh, this isn't the job that I wanted either, because I was panicking.
Yeah.
There's loads more, but interested to get your thoughts on any of that so far.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One of the things is it's not all negative, but that's part of the roller coaster. There can be an excitement with this as well. I like the idea of the beach balls you're trying to maintain a situation.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked about mechanism. And you were saying breaking things down. I think I like the idea of breaking things down slowly, like doing your CV one day, LinkedIn the next, and asking people to check, talking to friends, talking to confidants, do some networking, meet people in similar situations to you. Most of the people listening to this podcast should be proud of themselves already. They're already accounting students, potentially professional accountants working in finance. So you've already got something to write about in your CV. It's an opportunity to take a look at yourself, a look at your career, and actually evaluate it and think about how you can put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Think, right, what have I got to talk about here? Because you will have plenty of things to talk about. Yeah, it's about flipping it a little bit in your head, because there's going to be days where you'll fire off a bunch of CVs and none of them will get picked up because you haven't put your heart into it. But if you find a job where you're like, I think I can nail this, and you just look at it and go, yes, I can tick all those boxes, and you put all your effort into making the application as best, as well as you can. Yeah.
And then I suppose going into, other points, Neil, would be prioritising your physical health. And I think that's really important. Like, we all have our own stress busting tactics. What might work for me may not necessarily work for you. So it's about reflecting on, when I'm stressed, what really works for me. I know it can be something as simple as going out into the fresh air and getting a walk in. So it's really trying to go back to first principles here. So prioritising your physical health. There's so much research out there at the moment about sleep, and the importance of sleep, and obviously everything that we're eating, So what I would always say, in particular when I'm working with clients, the foundations of the house need to be in place, and the foundations really are physical health, what we're eating, what we're sleeping, and then of course how we're looking after our mental health and well-being. Because if the foundations aren't right, the house will fall down. So it is important to keep an eye on all of those things. And of course then there is support out there, seeking that support, whether that be a work colleague that you can confide in, your family, a career coach, whatever that might be, there is support out there. So I suppose knowing that as well, and not doing it on your own, because sometimes when you say something out loud, I'm finding this really tough, the weight of the world can be lifted from you. So knowing when to ask help is really important also.
Yeah, and this is it. I mean, you've got the ACCA network. There's other networks. There's networks within individual schools or in countries and regions. There are people out there, and many people in a similar boat to you. I absolutely agree with the foundational aspect. This is something that, if you do this now, it's also something you can take with you later in life. Seeing things objectively, which will be useful when you come to a job interview, to your first few months at work. Personally, the physical health aspect is something I just didn't really think about much, and now it is vital. I like cycling and I like going to the gym. I never used to. I come out of it after a couple of hours and I just feel better. I can almost look at, before going into doing exercise, I was thinking negatively about something, and I come out and I feel capable of thinking about it in a different way, and just it is kind of life-changing in that regard. I think physical exercise is really powerful, and that could just, like you said, just getting out and having a nice walk. There's a lot to be said. It gets called forest bathing and all these sort of funny names, but going for a walk, especially in nature, in my mind, it does have a lovely calming effect.
It really does, and there's so much research out there at the moment, I suppose the impact of nature. I'm nodding away here as you're talking, and I'm the same as you. Like, I go to the gym. It's my non-negotiable now, because I know, actually, not only for my physical well-being, it's more for my mental health and well-being that I go to the gym, because of the impact that it has. It has such a positive impact. So it's all of those things knitted together. As I said, all of those foundations are so important, to I suppose, to set yourself up for success.
Yeah, I think that's right. Are you seeing that people, are they talking to you about this? Are you giving lots of advice around this area?
It's a funny one, Neil. They don't come to me with this, but because I am, I suppose, a trained mental health and wellbeing coach, I can pick up in what people are saying that actually there's more going on here. So that's the beauty of coaching. When I hear words like, "Oh, I've just had an awful night's sleep," or I'm ratty with the kids, or whatever it might be, that to me is, let's talk about that a little bit more. And again, I won't even use the word, mental health. Just tell me a little bit more about that. What do you think is going on here? So to answer your question, people aren't specifically coming to me from a career coaching perspective, talking about their well-being. From an exam perspective,
I can imagine.
It definitely is more, But from a career coaching perspective, no. But it's always on the forefront of my mind. So when I hear something, I'll dig into that, and then they'll be like, "Oh God, I didn't actually realise." So sometimes it's nice for someone to point out, "You know what? I think you're going through a hard time at the moment. This is quite stressful for you." So to answer your question, the answer is no, people in general aren't coming to me with this.
I wonder if there's a little bit of the taboo-ness that still exists a little bit around mental health and well-being, especially when words have been heard a lot in the media. They can become jargon, they can lose a bit of their actual meaning. I know for me, I probably would, my first thing would be to look inward, think I can do this myself. I'm not being strong enough. If I think this way, I'm being weak, which is, I don't think is useful, but that's probably how I might still do things. And I wonder if there's still a little bit of that embarrassment almost.
You've hit on something there. I think we've gotten so much better, but probably, and this is another day's podcast, but how we're actually talking to ourselves, that's another huge one, oh, I'm weak, I should be able to do this, myself. So again, it's, I suppose, reframing that, and no, I'm not weak, I'm going to seek support here. So also what I would say to the listeners is, what are you telling yourself, and in this job search? And that can come up as well, Neil, if you've got lots of rejections, or, what are you saying to yourself? Oh, I'm no good at this, I can't do this. So again, all of that is going to have an impact. What our thoughts are and what we're saying to ourselves will have an impact on our well-being.
Yeah.
So if you can catch those thoughts, and reframe it. You know what? Okay, I didn't get this job. I'm annoyed. Acknowledging, we talked about that already. Acknowledging the emotion, but then say, what did I actually learn from this experience? Rather than berating yourself, what can I take from this experience to bring it forward so that I can get the next job?
Yeah.
So it was just interesting when you said it, and I thought it was a valid point to bring up. Just listen out for the way that we're talking to ourselves as well, because it can have a huge impact.
Absolutely, yeah, the internal monologue,
Yes.
or dialogue. I'm not
Yes.
sure which one it is, but yeah, it's very internal. I think that's a lovely place to end. I don't know if you've had anything else that you think we've missed or you'd like to add.
No, I think we've covered everything. My final point, Neil, would be self-compassion.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself in this process, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I hope we'll speak to you in the future. That was a very pleasant chat. I wish I'd spoken to you many years ago. We're looking for jobs, but hopefully we'll speak again on other topics. And I'll probably head off to the gym now, I think.
I think I might do the same.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you very much.
Thanks a million.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
For more career advice, check out the ACCA Careers website and the Student Accountant app. And if you have something in particular you'd like me to cover in the series, get in touch at studentaccountant@accaglobal.com.
This podcast was brought to you by ACCA. Find out how we think ahead at accaglobal.com.